Namaskar and good morning, Chairman, members of the board, all officers, invited guests, and also the media. It's actually a pleasure to join you today for the inauguration of this new CGST Bhavan in Ghaziabad. First, let me congratulate the CPWD, engineers, and also the Shramjeevis who have contributed in getting this building up and today ready for inauguration. The project, of course, as was described by the chairman, stands as a testament to our commitment to providing world-class work environment for our officers. So, if the taxation can become next generation, we can also have office complexes which are next generation for our officers to efficiently perform their duties. I'll not repeat the features of this building, which has been very eloquently mentioned by the chairman. Of course, open tech-enabled floors, quicken collaboration, and also quiet zones, which for a good working environment officers need to focus on their work. I would think the highlights. But it is important also to recognize that repeatedly I'm seeing in most of the new office complexes which the CBIC and the CBDT build are very keenly building in them taxpayers' facilities. That is the most critical thing, because however much technology has spread, there are always times when you want person-to-person interaction, and taxpayers need that comfort to come and be able to discuss issues which need some clarification. So every such bhavan which is built for the CGST, I noticed has a GST Seva Kendra. It also has taxpayers' lounge and has, as was described earlier, in every nook and corner where access is good, interactive digital displays. So these are actually points on which stakeholders' engagements become a lot more meaningful, and taxpayers feel that it's a welcoming environment and they would be happy to have engagements with the officers. I'd like to say here a bit on the next generation GST reforms. As you know, the CBIC put in a lot of hard work. I take this opportunity to thank the chairman, board members, and also the field formations for the very focused hard work done over the last 1 year for actually getting the next generation GST implemented. So, and the invitation or the call given by the Prime Minister on the Independence Day from Red Fort was just at the right time, when I think we were coming close to concluding all the discussions and repeatedly going back to do better homework, the drawing boards on inputs which have come over the several iterations that we've had. And although the Honorable Prime Minister had given us Deepavali as the deadline, we could finish it well before and introduce it with the due process followed in the GST Council. And obtaining GST Council's clearance, we were able to launch it even from the first day of Navratri, which I think shows how focused, efficient, and keeping the outcome in mind, the entire CBIC and the field formations have worked. You've actually worked as a brilliant big team and delivered on what the Prime Minister had requested us to do, only for the entire country to see that between 22nd of September and Deepavali, the euphoric increase in the transactions, buying and selling that has happened. So your 1 year long, acute, 3-month long work as a large team to deliver on what we can in the name of a next generation GST and in the name of course corrections as the system requires. When you have lived with this system for 8 years, in the process you learn a lot of things which you want to reset. All that happened, and once again a very big congratulations to the CBIC board and all the field formations for having delivered this country what can be remembered for the next 100 years as a next generation reform, and coming as it did, looking at the rates, looking at the tax slabs, looking at the process cleaning up, looking at making it easy for registrations, and looking at also the classification related issues. It has been one big sweep of comprehensive reform which has made GST, the next generation GST, a talk of every Indian. They may call it in their own words. Some may not say next generation, but say the work which has happened in GST is absolutely stunning. And it was done so quietly. We didn't have little indications given anywhere outside, because we were not sure as to finally how big this would be, because every one of us were working on each one of our own aspects. Some working on the process, some working to clear the doubts on inversion, a third looking at only classification, and so on. So I wouldn't want to take more time to pat on your shoulders, but the nation is seeing it, that when you're efficient, when you bring in a large-scale reform, it receives attention globally. And today, no newspaper in the world has missed out on this. There are repeat articles in some of the newspapers, even within a single day. The New York Times, for instance, carried 3 pieces of news in the New York City edition. And Chief Economic Advisor, who had gone to the US for the World Bank meet, sent me just one day 3 coverages on the GST reforms. It has had such kind of an impact globally. Well done. And am I here to say, oh, this much of sales has happened, you're saying, I'm saying, all of us are saying. But traders' body, the Confederation of All India Traders, CAIT as they call it, has said retail sales hit an all-time high of 6.05 lakh crores this year. Festive season. This is about a 25% increase over the last year's Diwali sales, which was around 4.25 lakh crores. Of the total, about 5.40 lakh crores was spent on goods and 65,000 crores on services, making it the biggest Deepavali business in India's trading history. Equally importantly, this Swadeshi Deepavali saw an overwhelming preference for made in India products. Roughly 87% of all that customers choose or chose to buy were Indian made goods over imports. I'm not saying this. The Cates report says this. Beyond the revenue figures, what is heartening also is the positive sentiment and optimism which has been shown and reflected in the market. Trader surveys showed confidence at a decade high, and with the Trader Confidence Index, which was at 8.6 over a scale of 10, and Consumer Confidence Index, which was at 8.4 over a scale of 10. So these are not milestones that you can achieve with just a small time, step forward or a process reform or just this or just that. Because of the comprehensive nature of what we've done, the impact is all across. Sentiments are not just dependent on rate cuts, it's also dependent on how easy life is becoming with the GST. The festive boom also translated into direct benefits for the people. Estimated 50 lakh temporary jobs are being created. And that is during the Deepavali season in sectors like supply chain, retail staffing, delivery, and on transportation. The e-commerce space also recorded a 24% year-on-year growth in volumes, while the gross merchandise value, which is on sales, posted an increase of 23%. So what do all these numbers tell us? That our economic policies, including of the recent GST rate rationalization, is having a very strong, powerful, and meaningful impact on the economy. So in fact, about 72% of the traders surveyed by Kate credited the GST rate cuts on items like daily use products, footwear, home decor, consumer durables, and also as key factors for the higher sales this year. So the Bachat Utsav, as Prime Minister Modi launched it on the eve of our GST reforms coming into play on the 21st when he spoke in the evening, he said this will be double Diwali and this will be a Bachat Utsav. It is actually turning out to be that. So my message to CBI and all the CGST, these few things. The next missions. CBIC and CGST field formation should not lose sight of the essence of the next generation reforms. We've brought the rates down, that's the end of the story. No, goes along with very, very many other things. So ease of registration process. The GST Council has approved to make the GST registration process a lot more simpler, easier, seamless, and also more transparent. And that is by design we want it like that. So technology and risk-based parameters must do the heavy lifting and not the taxpayer. We do not want anybody from the field formation adding one little more burden or onus on the taxpayer. Technology should be used. You do smart inquiring into the situation, and if necessary, the taxpayer may be approached for something. But no shifting of onus to him saying, give me more papers, give me this, give me that. Be clear, you should be smart. You should use technology. From 1st November 2025, the simplified GST registration scheme will grant automatic registration within 3 working days in 2 cases. One, applicants whom the system identifies based on data analysis, and those who self-assess that their output tax liability will not exceed 2.5 lakh rupees per month. So for these 2 categories, simplified GST registration will happen, and that will give them registration completed within 3 working days. This single reform is expected to benefit 96% of new applicants. So 96% will benefit from it. Task of the field formation is to operationalize it and ensure that there are no friction in the process. The GST Seva Kendra in this office and across India should be well staffed. I would particularly draw the attention of the board for that purpose, make it accessible and make it properly maintained so that taxpayers receive timely and quality assistance. There must also be a dedicated help desk for GST registrations to facilitate the taxpayer in the application process itself. Field units must conduct an internal audit of the functioning of the GST Seva Kendras and take action on the shortcomings faced by the taxpayers. The CP grants, or the Centralized Public Grievance Redressal and Monitoring System, I have a few things to say on that, and that's again for the field formations. CP Grams is a valuable interface between citizens and the government. Each grievance handled well reflects how responsible and how responsive and transparent the indirect tax administration is. It is indeed pleasant also that CBIC ranks on the top 5 out of 90 central ministries or departments in the CP Grams performance since February 2024. You don't seem to be happy, and I'm glad about that. You should actually be on the top. What, 4th rank? So, 4th rank among 90 different departments and ministries. You can aspire to be top rank. But of course, that can be achieved only by conscious efforts. However, it is important not to lose momentum. Therefore, please make sure that the next destination is rank number 1. CGST field formations must also have dedicated teams within the zones to further expedite the resolution of grievances. Such teams within CGST zones should help identify recurring issues. You know, you're not reaching the top number 1 rank, not for anything which is, newly created problems. You're having recurring issues, you know they are recurring, you don't want to finish it once and for all. If a problem is recurring, you are sure to know what is the root cause. Can you not address the root cause? So I would think recurring problems, you should have a mapping system. Whichever zone has repeat problems occurring in the CP Grams or in any other complaints mode, you should just pull them up. If there are new problems, I can understand. How are you sitting over recurring problems? And that should be reported, I would say, to the field formations. Please report it to the board that there are recurring issues. We may want some assistance at some other level. So these actually will enable many more systemic corrections. I'll move on to disciplinary proceedings, where I have a few things to say again. Timely disciplinary action shows that the institution holds its own officers to high standards of professionalism and integrity. I may not talk about GST here. For a minute, if you give me the indulgence, I'll quote on some other. And the same CBIC, which has done so much good work, particularly in the next generation GST reforms. The board I'm talking about, not the GST side of it, had to be made to be quick in responding to one other issue which also came up. I'm not getting into details of it, but that quick, speedy response with which you have worked in the last 1 year in the GST arena will also have to be shown in the excise and the customs arena. That is for the board, not so much for the others belonging to the GST. So disciplinary proceedings against the officers at different levels in the CGST field formation must be concluded expeditiously in a time-bound manner and also within prescribed timelines given by the DOPT or the CBC. The swift conclusion of disciplinary proceedings reinforces accountability within the organization. It also clears up the perception that public have that there is a level of indifference or protectionism which prevails among officers that weakens your moral authority, and therefore it is important not to delay or procrastinate. It sends a clear message that misconduct, dereliction of duty, or unethical behavior will not be tolerated. I think it's very important, and we can't afford on this to be laid back. Prolonged proceedings, which I find very frequently to my irritation, prolonged proceedings unfairly affect the morale and reputation of the officers involved, particularly if they are innocent. For those wrongfully accused, Early closure brings relief and restoration of dignity. The motto for disciplinary matters therefore should be, गलत किया है तो खैर नहीं, सही किया तो कोई भैर नहीं. It's important for us to quality, fairness and speed matters in the investigations and enforcement. Pending CGST investigations must be closed expeditiously with quality orders and those that can stand scrutiny. So quality orders that are well reasoned, evidence-based and also proportionate reduces adverse judicial outcomes and cut down litigation costs. So therefore officials must be trained and encouraged to conduct quality investigations. Field units must focus on wrongful ITC claims, fake invoice rings, lien and data triangulation, and also use risk engines to prioritize cases with material revenue impact. A few messages on trade facilitation measures. It's critically important for the CGST field formations to proactively undertake trade facilitation measures at your own levels. You don't need somebody to tell you, you need to do this. This is the guidelines given. Action be taken. You don't need it. You're all thinking people in the ground. If you were to be the exporter or if you were to be the trader, what would you want the system to do? Is it difficult to imagine? There is not an iron wall between you and the trader. There's thin air. Greater courtesy is important, but do your duty. I'm not asking, oh, okay, she's asked us to be courteous, we'll be courteous and make some arrangement. No, I'm not asking you to do making arrangements. There should be a properly laid down SOP. If it doesn't exist, I'm sure it exists already, but once again, a good round of reminding everybody there is an SOP, follow it and be empathetic. Politeness is not necessarily a compromise on enforcement. This is what I said in very many different words half a second ago, but I repeat it. It is important that you remain polite. So the next generation GST is not just about rates, it's not about slabs, it's not about simplification, it's not about just due diligence. It should make the taxpayer feel different. We are now honorably treated. We are the taxpayers of the nation. And if there are people who are bad sheep among taxpayers, you will still have the protocol to follow and catch hold of them. But don't look at everybody with suspicion. So in conclusion, I'd like to say, we are here now to dedicate this wonderful CGST Ghaziabad building today. We are ensuring, and I'm very focused on this, we are ensuring that the CGST field formations must have modern office facilities and adequate residential accommodation. On Wednesday, today we are on Friday, on Wednesday, I reviewed availability of office and residential accommodation to ensure adequate availability of these facilities to the officials and zones all across India. We have had a very elaborate review to make sure accommodation and workplace, wherever needed, will be taken up in a very speedy fashion. We will address the requirements. I have passed instructions. I have passed instructions that the proposals from the field units which are under consideration in the department must be finalized and reach the stage of calling tenders by the end of this financial year. Everything before the CBIC now will have to have calling for tenders before the end of this financial year. So you can be sure if yours is here, it will be addressed. Once these projects are completed, the CBIC, when I say once these projects, meaning those which are on their table now, almost approval given at that stage, that is, So once these projects are completed, CBIC would reach 85% of all residential and office requirement. So I think I will appreciate the CBIC, the chairman, the board members for having been diligently pursuing on accommodation requirements, both for working and for residing. So that is the speed with which they are working. And once this current set is cleared, 85% will be attended to. So when this commissionerate, the CGST commissionerate, is making a new beginning in a modern office, it must begin with a new mindset. That's all that I've been talking about. Don't carry pre-GST era mindset. Don't carry even the GST era phase 1 mindset. Now we are into the next generation. Look into a newer India, the 21st century India, and look into the acute need for us to work together so that by 2047 India can become a developed country. It can get developed in many other scores, but it will never be completely developed if we are sitting back and saying, chalo, we'll do it the way we've always done, we don't care. You may change, you may reform, you may reduce the rate, but we are what we are. Approach will not help the country. Even if you're not going to help the country, don't disserve the country by being laid back. Be proactive. You're very good at that. It doesn't have to be once in a way. It should be part of your working style. So redefine how you engage with taxpayers. We should be more prompt, more facilitative, and more accountable. This is must in line with the spirit of the GST next generation reforms. I told you about the Vikasit Bharat requirement. It's hardly 20 years, 22 years before us. We don't have the time and luxury for another 70 years to dawn on us. Within the next 22 years, our mindset and our activity will have to take us there. Other than the physical infrastructure, physical trade, fiscal, whatever physically that which has to be done will be done. The mindset change also will have to be adequately taken up. So I'm confident with the continued reforms, dedication, teamwork, we will now reach new heights in revenue, compliance, and also in service delivery. So the next generation of GST reforms will make this system a lot more efficient, equitable, and growth-oriented. So keep up the good work, maintain the momentum, particularly of reforms, and always remember that our ultimate goal is to make life easier for the honest taxpayer. I repeat, for the honest taxpayer. I do not want comfort given to the dishonest ones in any way. You don't need to be subjective with them. There's a laid protocol. Deal with them in that way. Don't have to be polite there. But even there, be polite and get your work done as per the SOP. So ultimate goal, I repeat, is to make life easier for the honest taxpayer. If we do that, economic growth and prosperity will surely follow. Thank you.